Being able to visualize and report your data is a key skill as a data analyst or data scientist. And there are two libraries that are widely used in Python. First one is called Matplotlib and the second one is called Plotly. And these two are quite powerful and they are the most used by data analysts and data scientists. Matplotlib, I would say, is more of a generic library that is used and you have a lot of control over how you can plot or visualize. And Plotly is more of a nice, visually interactive and connects with web apps. And today I'm going to show you both of them, their fundamentals and a real use case that we can analyze and visualize in a real world data set. And let's dive into it. So here we are on VS Code. I have the first section will be Matplotlib, second one will be Plotly. So basically if you're using VS Code, you'll find the GitHub repository for this project in the description below, so you can do the same things as me. A simple definition of Matplotlib: it's a Python library for making basic charts like line plots, bar graphs, scatter plots, pie charts, and way more. There are so many of them that you can find on their website. It's useful when you need full control over how your chart looks. It's not as pretty, I would say, as Plotly, but it's still very convenient to use. And here we will start directly with an example. To call or import Matplotlib, we do import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. The PLT, we're gonna use it to call the plots. Here we just created dummy data. We just have two lists, X and Y. And here we're gonna do a basic plot. We do plt.plot, and we're gonna need to have an X-axis and a Y-axis to do so. And we give it a title. We label X label and Y label, we give them a name. In this case, it's X-axis and Y-axis, very simple. And then we do plt.show. You'll notice here that I split it into three parts, distinct parts. I like to do that to just simplify how easy it is to create a visual in here. First, we need to define what are the metrics that we have or the calculations that we make on the X and the Y-axis. And then we just call what type of plot that you want, whether it's a bar chart, line chart, or pie chart, or whatever. Then we just add details about it, the title, the labels, things like this, the colors and things like this. And then we just call it, we just do .show. And here, for example, we can see that we have this not very pretty line chart for a very random set of numbers. But we can see how easy it is to create your own first chart with Matplotlib. Then we're gonna call a data set. So if you wanna do it with me, you can go into this website, football-data.co.uk/data.php. And you can just go here on the right side into main leagues. We go to Spain and we go into the first one here, season 24-25, La Liga Primera División. And we download this one just by clicking and it will be saved in here. I renamed it as La Liga 24-25 games, .csv, so it's more readable and when I come back I know what it is. So we just run it. It's a very basic data set with games of La Liga, so if I want to show some of it, it just looks like this. It has the data about the games that happened in this season, who won, the scores and all these things. But the purpose is not necessarily to dive into it, it's just to show you how to visualize. Yeah, so here pd.set option is just for us to be able to see all the columns and the rows. And if I do again, now I'm able to see all the columns without having this line break, which I don't like, especially for columns. And the shape, we can see 289 entries, which means rows, and 119 columns. First, we're gonna start with the histogram. So in order for us to do a histogram, what we're gonna do, here we're gonna use this column, which is the full-time home games. It's this one, home goals, sorry, full-time home goals. And that's the feature that we're gonna use in here. We're gonna drop all the null values in it, drop NA, just to make the visual to not be biased by null values. Here we start by calling the plot a histogram. We give the figure a size, you know, the length and the width of the plot. And we can see that we can adjust this. We call this variable home goals that takes the whole values from that column. Then we give them a title, an X and Y label, and we show it. And if we run, we can see here that we get an histogram in here that has the value. So for example, here we can clearly see that the goals scored by home team, the one that mostly appear is the goals equal to 1, and we have nearly 120 appearances, followed by 2 goals, then 0, and so on. For example, here, if we wanted to play around with it, and you can see here that we adjusted a few things. Before here, we just put directly histogram and we just added the column that we're visualizing. But in our case here, we're going to do a few more things. So the first one here is we're going to adjust the bin, and the bin is just from the value 0 to 1 is basically those bars that you see. They're called bins in a histogram. And also adjust the color, the edge of the color, and the alignment. And the rest in here we have the same things, the title, the X and Y label. And here we also have the ticks, which will basically mean it's like the separator that you're gonna see in the graph, and the grids. This is just a styling that we added overall. So you can see the ticks here, the grid, the color, the edges, and we can see here that it looks a little bit better than before. So you can see they have a lot of control on how you want to visualize things in terms of color, branding, and all these things. And that's why Matplotlib is very powerful. And in this one here, we also want to add a mean line, the mean value of the goal scored by the home team. We want to add it. So if we run it here, we can see that the mean value is 1.48 and it goes in here. And the way we did it is basically we kept the rest as it was, the histogram with the column that we chose, the bin size, the color, the edge, and everything. But here we calculated first the mean of the goals. So we did home goals.min, as simple as that. And we created a line for it. This one, AXV line, is the average line. And we gave it a color red. The line style, the line width, this is just styling. It could have been just this one, and Matplotlib would have chosen a color for us. This one, mean goals.2f, is just for us to get a value with two numbers after the dot, 1.48. If we move into the bar chart in here, what we want to do, we want to get the top home scorers. So what we could do, we go to home team and we go to the full-time home goals and we do a sum. It's always necessary to think of what are you gonna plot, what is the purpose of the thing that you're gonna plot, and then get that information first. If you're gonna make some calculation, if you're gonna get a subset of the data, you have to do it prior to visualizing. You need to know what you're gonna visualize. And in our case, we wanted to visualize the top home scorers of this season. So when we did this, we created this list of the top 10, and this list is what we're gonna visualize next as a bar chart. So here what we do PLT dot, we can do here top home scorers, because that's the name of the variable, dot plot, and here we choose the kind bar chart because we want to plot a bar chart. We gave it a color, edge colors, and so on. And as we saw, now it's the same thing. We give it a title, the X and Y label, you name them as well, the X text, the grid, and then you can just do .show. And you can see here that we have our top 10. They go in a descending order. We chose the color and everything. And that's how you do visualize a bar chart. If we move into a line chart now, line charts are mostly used for time series, and usually you have like a date column that you use so you can see the evolution over time. And here, for example, we have this date column, and date column, it's always important first to turn date columns into date time format, so that the Python, the code recognizes that that column is a date column. It's very important to do that. It's a good habit to do this whenever you're working with date columns. And here we just drop in any columns, any rows that have 0 value in the date. We don't want them, so that they don't bias our results. And then we just group the results that we want here, the home goals, full-time home goals by the date. And we can see here, if we open the value, we can see all the values that we see, 2 goals on this day, 4 goals on this day, and so on. And then we're gonna visualize that. How we do it, we just do the name of the variable that we have in here, dot plot, the line chart, because now we're doing a line chart, and we can choose the color and the marker and so on, and you're gonna see all of these things. We can see that we added the grid. These are, let's say, this, and these colors and the markers, they are secondary. This is how you style your plots. You could easily just do goals by date dot plot, and you do line chart, you don't put a grid, and you just show your result, and it still works really fine. So those are just styling, so don't get when you see a little bit like this, you might get confused. Just think of them as good to have, but not necessary. Just try to understand the basics, and then you can dig deeper into how to style your plot. And you'll see later with Plotly that you can style it and make it look way nicer than with Matplotlib. Here, we also wanna get like an average, 5-day rolling average. So what we do in here, in the same one in here, we just create this variable, rolling average, and it will take this goals by date that we just plotted in here, and we wanna get the rolling average for it, basically the mean value of the last 5 iterations. And we wanna also plot it alongside this. Maybe it gives us some meaningful insight about, okay, what's the rolling average for the past 5 games or the past 5 days in this case. And we see, okay, for example, in here we can see a huge peak, which is way higher than the rolling average. So it's good to go and have a look, okay, so what kind of games we had in here? You know, as a data analyst, you have to dig deeper into what's going on within your data. But it's always good to have these kind of insights. They're rich and quite powerful to share as well. Then we can look at scatterplot. Scatterplot, for example, here we chose 2 columns. This one is the home shots and this one is the full-time home goals. And we put them in two distinct variables, X and Y. And here we're creating a scatter plot, plt.scatter. You can see that it's very easy to call any kind of chart they want to show. You always put what are you gonna plot. Here it's an X and Y value. We have the color, we have the title, everything the same. So you just plot it, and you can see here that we have this scatter plot that shows the shots by home team, and it's also compared to the goals. So how many shots were needed to score goals. So here this one looks good, but I see there are some outliers. For example, a team that had nearly 30 shots and scored 0 goals. You know, this is quite an outlier. So what I did in here is that I will go and put a condition on outliers. We just do it here basically. If the home shots are above 10 shots and we have 0 goals, consider it as an outlier. And if the home shots are above 20 and below 2 goals, then consider it as an outlier. And you will see here that it considered these as outliers. Obviously, I am the one that put the condition. You can put in the condition that seemed to you that, okay, 20 shots, 0 goals for me seems like an outlier. For you, maybe, I don't know, 25 shots and not scoring more than 2, all those that are below seem like outliers. And when you present this plot, it has way more insights than just this one, because this one you clearly show what doesn't fit the usual hypothesis that you put. If we do the pie chart will basically just get us a comparison between a few features. Here, for example, we're just comparing the home wins, the draw, and the away wins. So in the dataset, we have them as A, D, and H, but we'll put an explicit name for them. And here we're just gonna convert this H, D, and A into the full name, so they're usable. And here, if we wanna plot the pie, we just do plt.pie. We call in the variable that we set in here, which is basically this one in here. And we just give each slice of the pie a color. So if we do it in here, we can see that we get the home win, the away win, and the draw for that whole column. So we can see in here. And this one is just the way we see the numerical values inside of the pie. And this start angle, just to get the starting point from a 90 degrees, it just looks nicer. So now let's dive into Plotly. Plotly is very interesting. We can do the same things as Matplotlib, but this one is more pleasant. It's more interactive. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can have maps and so many cool things. And it can be nicely integrated into web apps as well. And a lot of people nowadays use Plotly. To call it, we have 2 libraries that we can call. It's Plotly Express and Plotly Graph Objects. Plotly Express are more for simple and charts that you can make fast, and the Plotly Graph or Go is the one that is fully customizable. You have more control, you can do more things with it. So we will do the same things. We're going to do a histogram, and you can see here the way we write it is a little bit different than a Matplotlib, but not that much. We call it px dot the name of the chart. Here we have histogram. Here we call the data frame. We give it the x-axis in here that we're calling. We give the bin also a bin size like we did in Matplotlib, and the rest is the same: title, labels, and colors. And here it's just showing the histogram in itself. And you can see here quickly, if I zoom out like this, we can see that it looks prettier. It's interactive, meaning that when I hover, we can see the values. I can, for example, just select the top 3 like this. I can download it as a PNG. I can zoom in, zoom out, auto scale, and do a bunch of cool things with it. And that's the power of Plotly. It's that you can do the same things as Matplotlib, they just look nicer, in my opinion anyways. Then if we jump into bar charts in here, we have these top teams that we want to visualize. It's basically the home teams and with the home goals, grouped by the home goals, and then we just sum the value of them. So if we just run this one and I just get this, if I just do it here briefly, and we can just see the home goals by the top 10 teams in La Liga this season. We can see Barcelona, then Real Madrid, and that's what we want to visualize. Basically, we do the same plot as we did for Matplotlib, and you can see here it's nice and it's more pleasant and you have more control, it's more interactive. And if you wanted to see the top 5, we can clearly just isolate them like this. We just wanted to look at the top 3. It's just more interesting to do it like this. You just feel like you have more control. So if we go to the line chart, here the line chart, we want to get the home goals by date. As we said, the line chart for time series usually, where you have an evolution over time. And we're going to do the same as we did before. Here we call it px.line. We call the variable that we're going to showcase in here. We give the x-axis is usually the timeline, the date, and the y-axis is the values that variate over time. Basically here, title, labels, as we usually do, labels for the y-axis and the x-axis, markers, and here it's a layout. The layout, what we want to give it, we can have a different color for the background template and also the way you hover. So these things, you find them on their websites and you can play around with them. So here we can see that we have a white template, it's white and clean, and you can go and hover on each and every entry point that we have in here. And this one, if we go back into what we had in here, it just looks, in my opinion, more pleasant in Plotly, and if we wanted to add the rolling average as we did, we can also do it the same way. We just go and add that rolling average. It's the exact same formula that we did on the Matplotlib, and we can just go and add it in here. And we can see that here we use go instead of px, because we have plotly.express and we have plotly.go, and when we have a combination of plots, it's more interesting to use go because it gives us more control and more flexibility. But here it's basically the same. We call it go.scatter because it considers them to be scattered dots instead of a line chart, but it's easy. You do go.scatter and you give the same labels as we did before. You put in the x-axis, the y-axis, the name, the line color and everything. You do that for both of them. You choose a distinctive color so that you can see them differently. And then the layout in terms of title that you give to the whole chart, the hover mode, etc. And you can see they look as pretty as this. It's always good to understand the basics of how things work so that then when you dig deeper into them, you have more control. But the basics are just that you need to have that metric or that column that you want to visualize first. You do the calculations beforehand, and then you choose what is the best chart to do for it. Is it a line chart, a scatter plot, is it a bar chart, etc. And then you just call that chart, let's say a bar chart, you do px.bar, then you give it the attributes, what is the color, the thickness of the line, the bins, all those things, etc. Then you add the title, the legend, all these things, and then you just show it. Even if the code might seem daunting, but obviously at first you don't start directly with long codes. You start with something very simple as we did in here. You just call what type of chart you do. You just call the variable. You just give the bin a size, a title, a label, and you showcase. And the more you dig in deeper into things, and the more you can add. And what's good with Plotly, you can then have some really cool visuals that are very nice when you present them to the stakeholders, to the clients, or to your colleagues. And they're very interactive, so people love that as well. So this is basically just reproducing what we did for Matplotlib as well. And we can see that we can do the same things, all powerful. Whether you use Plotly, Matplotlib, that's completely up to you. And I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments which one you've used the most and which one you think is the nicest to use. I have my idea, I prefer Plotly, but it doesn't mean I don't use Matplotlib. Sometimes for just fast iteration and exploration, I use Matplotlib still, but it's good to have both of them so that when you have something really cool and you have time, you want it to be well presented, go for Plotly in my opinion. So yeah, let me know in the comment section if you enjoyed it. If you have any ideas for what we can cover next, let me know as well. And remember to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps me a lot make videos like this to you and to benefit others with all this knowledge. And I've also made a video on NumPy, so if you're interested and you want to go and watch it, you'll find it just here. So click on it and give it a watch. Thank you for watching.